Hello, this is Grape, and today I'm doing a little something different. I'll be reading a creepypasta that I've written a while back, about 2 years ago. It's about a text that you can find in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon when you're in the Training Dojo dungeon. This is in the perspective of the Pokemon and what may have happened, what may have conspired. I figured I'd do this for Halloween, and basically today is October 26th, which is a significant day for me, and since it's Friday, I kind of consider it a Friday the 13th times 2. Anyways, enjoy. Something is stirring. My partner Rielu and I, Evie, were exploring Treasure Town, checking out the stores we don't normally go by. Since we were having a very laid-back day, not much jobs to be done, we had decided to check the stores we haven't been to yet. One of them was run by a Chansey. When we came up to the store, the Chansey explained to us how sometimes we would get eggs as rewards. If we got an egg, the egg would go to Chansey, and she'd look after it. While Riolu spoke with her, I got distracted, as I saw on the other side of the path was a huge dome sort of looking store. One of the things that I noticed about it was that it had a large skull on it. A bit odd, if you ask me. I guess Chansey must have noticed that I was looking at it, because then she spoke up. "Oh, are you interested in the training dojo?" she asked. "Training dojo?" my partner asked. Of course he'd be interested, since he was a fighting type. "Yes, it's run by a Marowak. Why don't you go check it out?" she said, smiling at us. Will looked at me, obviously excited. "Come on, Evie, let's go check it out," he said, before dragging me to the dojo. Once we were inside, we looked around and took note of how huge the place was. We also noticed there were stairs in the back leading down to a dark abyss. Marowak stood in the center of the back of the room, and when he noticed us, he was certainly happy and excited. "Oh, customers! My first customers!" he said, and he gestured us over. "This is my training dojo. Come here whenever you need to train, alright? When you're ready to train, just go to the staircase and choose the type of dungeon you want," he said. "Oh, but make sure your treasure bag is empty, because you'll have to leave everything here if you want to go in. But anything you find in the dungeons you can keep," he said, smiling. "So, would you guys like to give it a shot?" he asked. My partner looked at me, excited. "Can we, Evie?" he asked. I hesitated and looked in our treasure bag. There wasn't anything really important in our bag at the moment, just some berries that we could easily get more of. I looked back at Rielu and nodded some. "Sure, I don't see why not," I said. So I went over to the staircase and chose the type of dungeon to go through. We decided to try the normal flying type first and see how it went. B1 and B2 floors went by quickly. We were already nearing the 50s level-wise, so the enemies were a piece of cake. It was no wonder Marowak said we could keep whatever we found. Nothing but little piles of poke and oral berries and escape orbs. I was and kept going deeper. I noticed how the floor layouts seemed to get more and more intricate, like mazes. I didn't think too much of it. When we got to B5, the enemies seemed a little more tougher. We kept going through, though, pushing forward. They still weren't too much trouble with our levels. As we kept going, and going, and going, I started to notice it was taking us forever to find the stairs. I kept telling myself that the next room would have the stairs, but when we got to another room, the stairs weren't there. The hallways were long too. So very long, it seemed like we were walking for ages. Get a hold of yourself, Evie. Your mind is just playing tricks on you, I thought to myself. But then, Riolu suddenly stopped. I blinked and looked back at him oddly, wondering why he suddenly stopped. A cold wind suddenly blew out from nowhere, and I shivered. Something is stirring. I heard, and at first I didn't know where it came from, until I realized my partner had said it. I looked at him and found that his eyes had an empty, glazed over look. Riolu, are you okay? I asked in a bit of confusion and panic. His eyes returned to normal, and he looked at me and smiled. Yeah, I'm fine. Let's do our best, he said. It seemed like he didn't even realize he had said anything before. I shook my head some, starting to think that the dungeon was getting to me. I continued on for the search of the stairs, hoping to find it soon after that weird experience. Not to mention that I was starting to have a sense of foreboding. As we continued on, again we still couldn't find the stairs. Turn left, no stairs. Turn right, no stairs. Went straight, no stairs. Where were the stairs? Riolu stopped again, and the wind blew. I looked back at him, and found him in the same state as before. Something is following us, he said, before going back to his normal self. That did it. I started to panic and started to run, looking for the stairs, wanting to get out of there. Every time we didn't find the stairs for a while, Riolu would stop and do the same thing as before. It's getting closer. It's almost here. It's nearby. It's gusting hard. When Riolu said that, I looked back at him, and then suddenly everything went black. I didn't know what happened, if I had passed out or what. When I woke up, I was in pitch black darkness. I looked around in fear and confusion. Hello? I called, wondering what was going on or where I was. Then, red glowing eyes suddenly appeared around me. I squeaked in fear and tried to move but couldn't. The Marowak that ran the training dojo appeared, but he was no longer cheerful and happy. He looked horrific. His eyes were glowing red, and the skull on his head was dripping with blood. The bone he held was also bloody. Marowak? What's going on? Where am I? Where's my partner? I blurted out in fright. Your partner, Riolu, is dead, he said, smiling twistedly. What? What are you talking about? I cried out. He had to be lying, right? Do you realize how long you have been in the dungeon? You have been wandering around in the dungeon, lost for years after Riolu died of starvation. You've just been imagining him being with you up until this point, Marowak said. What? No, you're lying, I screamed at him. Oh, really? He said, and pointed. I looked where he pointed. and immediately wished I hadn't. My friend, my partner, Rielu, was laying there as a lifeless corpse. He was already far along with decomposing. I almost threw up and I quickly looked away, his tears streaming down my face. It can't be true. If he died of starvation, how could I have been walking around for years without dying of starvation too? I said. Marowak just laughed cruelly, and the narrow-glowing red eyes around me laughed as well. You said you weren't dead, Marowak said. Shocked, I paused and looked at myself. To my horror, I found myself in the same state as Rielu. I screamed at the top of my lungs while the others laughed. I then suddenly woke up. I found myself lying in the dojo next to Rielu, both alive. Marowak was frowning at us. He couldn't do it. Ah well, better luck next time, he said. I blinked in confusion. I slowly stood up, the laughter still ringing in my ears. Rielu looked at me and shrugged some. Oh well, let's go back to checking out Treasure Town, okay? He said. Was all that happened just something I imagined? A dream? Whatever it was, I just hoped it wasn't a dimensional scream. I did know one thing as we left the dojo. I wasn't ever going back there again. And that I'm always going to bring an escape orb. Just in case.